Hi parents, it's Friday. I'm so glad this week is over. I was going to post some other videos today, but then I was looking at the news and reading about the school shooting that happened in Santa Fe and read that there's reports that there's a student with a gun on campus at Lebanon High School. By the time this posts, the story may have changed a bit, but I just was thinking about how scary it can be to parent these days. I don't want to be driven by fear, and that's one of the reasons why I still go to malls. I still send my kids to public school. I still go to these public places, but at the same time, I want to be wise. And part of being wise is talking with my children about tough topics when they come up. And so I just wanted to share some of what I touched on with my kids when we recently talked about the Florida school shooting. I would love it if you would share maybe conversations you've had with your kids and how you've communicated big messages to them. If you could do that in the comments, that would be amazing. Because then if we're all sharing and talking about what's working with our parenting, someone else might feel more equipped for it. Because I feel like the more I can glean in these resources when I'm not in crisis mode, the better prepared I will be if I ever do face that crisis mode. So recently with the Florida school shooting, I actually didn't want to talk with my kids about it at first because there was that part of me that was thinking, I don't want to make them fearful. I don't want to make my second grader afraid to go to school. But then we're just listening to the radio on the way home from school, and there was a brief update on how many fatalities there had been in the shooting. And so, of course, that leads them to ask, what's this about? So kind of the way I broke down our conversation is I first talked about how in Florida there was a kid who had a lot of anger inside of him, and he hadn't been helped to know how to, or maybe he'd been helped but nothing had worked. He didn't understand how to process that anger and what to do with it. And so what he chose to do was take a gun to school and shoot people. And I talked about how it was really sad because there are people who have died and people who have been hurt. But I kept that really succinct, and I didn't want to get into the details. They didn't need to know everything that happened or how it happened or all those details. Instead, I then moved it on to the fact that we hope and we pray that we are never faced with a situation like that in our schools and in our days, but that there is a reason that we practice lockdown drills and lockout drills and all of that, so that way we are prepared if an emergency happens. Jace immediately chimed in like, oh yeah, this is what we do, and we close the blinds and we hide under our desks and we have to be silent, and he knew exactly what it was. These schools are doing a great job of doing preparation for those emergency situations, which helped encourage me that it's not such a scary topic to bring up with my kid because it's become a regular part of his academic experience. So first we talked about just the basic facts of the emergency that happened in Florida. And then we talked about how we are preparing for that situation. And then I went to going on and talking about how I hope we never face it, but if we do face something scary like this, we can trust God even through it. We can trust that God will take care of us. We can trust that even if we aren't physically protected in that situation, we can trust that we know God and that we will get to see him in heaven. And I talked about how I hope I never have to experience the pain of being a parent of a kid who's involved in a school shooting. But again, I have hope in God, and I'm going to trust God that he is going to take care of my family. So even if we face something really scary and really bad, we're going to trust that he's going to walk through it with us. So I was able to take those scary facts and that scary potential and turn it to that hope that we have in Jesus, which that changes everything. So we were able to talk about how we love the Lord and we believe in him, and he has this promise and hope of heaven, and we know that he will be with us no matter what. It doesn't mean he shields us from bad things, but it means he will walk through the bad things with us. And it was powerful, and honestly, that conversation was probably 5 minutes or less, and then we just moved on. I also wanted to encourage you with trusting your kids' teachers and the way that the schools are handling these situations. Once I was in Jace's kindergarten class at the time of a lockdown drill. Somehow nobody knew it was happening. So it felt really frightening in that moment for me as a mom when all of a sudden the alarm starts going and the voice over the intercom kept saying, "This is a lockdown drill," or "This is a lockdown drill." And his teacher immediately went to close the blinds and close the window so that way no one could see in the room. And we all gathered on the rug, and she was amazing at how she led these little kindergartners through silently remembering the alphabet. alphabet and the letters the sounds make. And so we're sitting there, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do if this is an actual like crisis situation? Like, am I going to throw myself across kids? Like it was intense. And I'm watching this amazing teacher just hold these kids together and treat it like this is a really fun, dark, silent experience as a class. And they didn't know fear in that moment. So I want to encourage you to know that if your child does face that crisis, and it is scary, that they have amazing faculty and staff working with them to help make it as less scary and less fearful as it needs to be. So just be preparing your kids. Talk to them honestly about what's happening. Keep it age appropriate. Don't share details that their little mind is not ready to handle, but at the same time, give them credit for what they can understand. And then last, point them towards the hope that we have in Jesus. I really hope none of us have to actually face this reality. But honestly, it's just becoming more and more possible. So I'm praying for safety over our community. I'm praying for safety over our schools. And I am praying for wisdom for you as parents, as you are raising a generation that is living through some really scary stuff. So again, if you've had conversations with your kids about this kind of thing, would you please share it in the comments? I'd really love it if we can just help encourage each other in these hard, more like just scary times.